Welcome back. You're still watching the news review right here on Power Breakfast, where we look at the issues behind the headlines. Just before we move to the next story, one Ochieng from Kisumu says, if we do not have a brave man in Kenya to take this job of a hangman, I'm ready to offer my services as long as the pay is good. Yeah, that's just one of them. Very many opinions here to do with crime of passion, the death sentence. One saying, if you've never lost a close relative, then you do not even understand that even the death sentence to the perpetrator is not sufficient. Yes, yeah. Let's move on now. The eviction of over 5,000 people from our forest has taken a political twist, with a group of Rift Valley MPs claiming the move is aimed at scuttling Deputy President William Ruto's 2022 bid. The leaders, who included Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, claimed the eviction was part of a plot to cause bad blood between voters and Ruto. This story by Stephen Leto.
The busy Narok-Bomet Road was rendered impassable. Reason: a section of youths in Ololulunga town staged protests in support of Mau evictions after a rival group held meetings in Sogo.
Na saa hii serikali ndio wameamini ile kulia ya kusema mito imeisha, nini imeisha, kila kitu imeisha. So wanapea ultimatum nani? Sisi tunasema tuko nyuma ya bwana Natembea, na akitoa yeye katika Narok hatutakuwa na commissioner ingine. Tutakuwa na huyo, hatutaki mwingine. Na sisi tumesema kwamba hatutaki provocation.
Si ati mbunge atoke kutoka Bomet, atoke Eldoret, na misitu ya Eldoret imehifadhiwa. Kwani ya Narok County iko na shida gani isemekane watu waingie ndani waharibu?
Police engaged the youth in running battles until calm was restored. Since last week, disquiet has been festering as some residents claim the evictions are inhuman, and now the forest has turned the subject of high-octane politics, with Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen leading Rift Valley leaders to the forest today. The leaders blaming the evictions on the handshake between President Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga for triggering Mau evictions.
Kuna watu waliingia serikali juzi kupitia dirisha. Na wanashikana na wakora wengine kutoka kona ingine. Ati memorandum yao ilikuwa mmoja yao ni kutoa watu kutoka Mau. Ati tuingize hii, ati sijui William Ruto atakuwa nini. We want to tell them to their face, the government of Kenya will not allow people of Kenya watumike kama vibaraka ya kisiasa. We will not allow.
Waliamuka usiku kukupigia kura serikali ya Jubilee. Kwa nini saa hizi kina mama wahangaishwe? Hii shamba watu walinunua, wako na title deed, serikali wako na shule wamechenga. We ni nani utumike hapo kama mtu haelewi mambo?
The leaders standing their ground that the latest Mau evictions were meant to scuttle William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid by antagonizing him with the Mau evictees, a matter that could further widen the rift in the Jubilee party.
Ati sasa ati ndio akimbie leo kesho hapa ama kesho kutakuja aseme unajua amukulindwa na William Ruto, amukulindwa na Uhuru Kenyatta, sisi ndio tumekuja tumewaletea tamtam na sukari na nini. We don't want tamtam na sukari, tunataka wananchi warudi kwa nyumba zao na waishi katika nchi yao.
Alikuja huko kwetu akadanganya sisi anatupeleka Kanani, sisi tukajoin yeye akatupeleka pahali si Kanani.
Hatuwezi kubali, na sisi kama viongozi tunataka kusema nyinyi watu wa Mau tuko na nyinyi mpaka dakika ya mwisho. Na mimi ninawaambia usisonge hata kidogo, tunakaa hapa.
That unless those titles held by the people living here are voided by the courts, they remain legitimate titles and documents of this government, and we are wondering where the government get the powers to evict people from this area.
Narok North lawmaker Moitalel Ole Kenta has however dismissed the MP's claims.
Kutoka chini ya Sierra Leone mpaka huko juu Kusumoru, hapo ni trustland, na wale watu ambao wameingia kwa njia ambayo waliingia wanatakiwa kutolewa.
The instructions of any person mwenye amekupatia kutoka ofisi, hata kama ni president ama hata deputy president,
those instructions do not include violation of human rights.
The lawmakers, however, claim police are using excessive force to evict forest encroachers, and the locals have lost property amounting to thousands of shillings with nowhere to go.
So I'm actually challenging the Attorney General of this country to come out and tell the country and the world at large the status of the Maasai Mau titles that were actually purportedly created out of the Maasai Mau forest.
Kwa Jubilee Big Four iko maneno ya housing ya kutengeneza manyumba. Sasa wakati unapomoa manyumba ya watu unatengeneza maneno ya Big Four.
The Kenya Forest Service aims to evict over 5,000 people in Sierra Leone, Nkoben, Kosian, Chemogoi and Kitoben areas. Stephen Leto, Citizen Television, Nairobi.
Yes, it started off as an effort to conserve the Mau catchment area. Now it's turning out to become something else. Of course, there are issues of human rights violation, and that is one thing, whether or not the eviction is being conducted in a humane way. But there's now issues of politics, and also telling people you're not going to move, your titles are valid. What is your initial reaction to what we just watched?
My initial reaction in the Muli is it is bad, because what we have just witnessed is something that is has been politicized, has been taken totally outside the context. And I want to say here that when you say Rift Valley MPs, those are Kalenjin MPs. It's maybe say a section, not Rift. We're in the Rift Valley, and we were not there, not even a single one. But it's even more disheartening and more disappointing to hear pronouncements that you tell people now go back because we are doing housing in the Big Four. You cannot build on a road reserve, you cannot build in the forest. And if you say that this is embarrassing the government, you should fly over the Mau forest and see what an embarrassment it is. What it was, like my friend Kiro is saying, it now looks like his head, because of constant abuse of the forest. And I think as a country, like if you know rivers that used to flow, even in our place, that used to come from the Mau Narok, in the River Kirimo as we call it, or River Nderit, it has dried up because of the destruction of Mau forest. And I think someone must be bold enough to tackle this menace. And what I've witnessed now, it is even, I didn't listen to it yesterday, I've just listened to it for the first time. When you say that Raila came in through the window and now has teamed up with Wakora, I'm wondering, is the Mkora the president of this country, or who is the Mkora we are referring to? When does it become a community issue? Because now what we have seen is people pitting each other to actually reignite clashes that we have witnessed over the years, and threatening that it's now 22 that has been taken there. And I want to say, really, I think what we are seeing now is air boxing. Everything you touch touches 2022. I don't know what is this panic mode we are witnessing. You are air boxing. I don't know who you are fighting with or what you're fighting with. And I think to actually bring the name of the president and say, I've been sent by the president and the deputy president, go back to the forest. It is the highest abuse to the presidency. And I think by the time a county commissioner does something or issues an order, it really must have come through the hierarchy from the presidency, because it's the executive dealing with it. When do the members of parliament get the mandate or locus standi to tell people now, go back to the forest? I think it is unfortunate. In terms of human rights, different agenda. If we are doing evictions, let them be humane or whatever it is. But when you tell people, go back, we'll bring you Mabati, what is the difference between the tam-tam they are talking about? Yes. It is the same thing. And I think we must separate politics from the conservation efforts and support the president, because really the president even this year has said we want to plant millions of trees. Let us start with the Mau forest before we even do anywhere else, because it is an embarrassment, it is an eyesore. It is just totally unacceptable.
Of course, we are not even seeing area leaders being as vocal. Elgeyo Marakwet is very far from where Kipchumba Murkomen was speaking from yesterday. Yet he's so convicted about what he's saying. With that one action yesterday, this has just stirred the waters from an effort that may have seemed legitimate by the government to try and conserve that forest, to now totally different. Now we're talking about 2022, Raila Odinga, the handshake and all these things, that all of a sudden it's become so muddied, and it is confusing.
Well, I think my colleagues from the Rift Valley, the Kalenjin Rift Valley, have just chosen to play politics in whatever form, whether it is about corruption, whether it's about Mau forest, Because Mau Forest is a decision that was taken by the cabinet, where William Ruto was part of that cabinet. Even when Raila was being blamed on because of implementing a cabinet decision, it was done in the cabinet, where all the cabinet members were there under the chairmanship of former President Kibaki. So what this regime is doing is to implement what has already been agreed. What we would expect, as Senator Murkomen said, is to be humane. And yesterday, I saw one of the colleagues from the Kalenjin Rift Valley, the MP for Soy, saying that they have a plan. So I don't know whether that plan evaporated after he left the studio, or whether that plan is still on. That if people have legitimate titles, let them be relocated to other possible alternative pieces of land. We are not saying people should be rendered landless, but of course, if there is government title, there are parcels of land that the government can ease out and allow some of these people to settle. Finally, I think 2022 is becoming, they are getting paranoid about it. And every day I pray that 2022 comes. They may not get the results they expect. Because if William Ruto wants to be president of Kenya, you cannot be voted by one community or two. He needs all communities of Kenya. Even those who don't vote for him, he needs their goodwill. That's why President Uhuru Kenyatta talked to the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, that they work together for purposes of pacifying this nation. Because even without the support of those who do not vote for you, you can hardly run government. So this is something they should realize, that 2022 is just an event of election.
Yes.
William may win or he may not win, but life will continue. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, for anyone else watching that news story on Citizen TV who does not understand what's happening at the Mau, probably lives in a different part of this country, they're totally confused about what exactly is happening. From issues of whether or not those people are being evicted in the right way, now to issues of 2022, Raila Odinga, the handshake and all these things, go back to the forest. It is totally confusing. Probably the leaders who live there, the people who live there understand it. But for anyone else just watching it through TV, it is totally confusing. Bwana Speaker.
Yeah, it's very confusing, but not only confusing, but it's also very hypocritical. And I don't think these people need to be taken serious, Murkomen and his group. I do not think even these people who have been evicted need actually to take them serious, because if they take them serious, they will suffer. Why? These evictions have been going on for a couple of months now, for a couple of weeks, and actually I think the government is almost mopping out all the people who are in the forests. And not only, I mean, not until Gideon Moi and the Kanu party actually went and tried to politicize the issue and say that this issue is actually inhumane, it's being done in an inhumane manner, it needs to be stopped. It's not only at that point that now you see Murkomen and his group now running to now give a counterclaim and say, no, we are actually not the ones who are involved. So to me, they actually don't mean what they're saying. Deep down their hearts, they all know that the evictions must be carried out, albeit more human, maybe in a more humane manner, and they know that the Mau forest actually need to be reclaimed. But because the Moi and his group, they went and introduced the aspect of politics in it, that's why now they are also running to counter that. Otherwise, I do not actually think they are serious. They would have actually prevented this. They know very well this has been executed by the government. They know very well, as we have said, it is something that was passed in the cabinet. And it was not stopped at any point during all this time. So it is coming in a little bit late, just for political expediency and nothing more. But now there's so much data into this, because the moment they talked, now you have seen what has happened now on the other side of Narok. There's another community which is saying that you actually want to make us now go into extinction, because if at all we are not going to enjoy the water and the kind of environment that you are enjoying on the other side, then it means that you have no goodwill over our lives. And you know, the government is a government for all. The Mauna, I mean the Narok people, and also people now from the Kalenjin side. So really, it is an issue that these people need to tread a little bit more carefully. It's also an issue that I also think other agencies of government actually need to come in. They need to be stopped, from this kind of an issue. You're in government. Why don't you go, and you're the majority leader in the Senate, why don't you bring a motion in the Senate and see how it will fare on in the Senate?
In a short while, we'll be getting Senator Olikina on phone in a short while, but let me come to Bwanatandi first. This issue has been used politically before, the Mau issue, and it is said that it could be one of those things that made Raila Odinga lose out on the presidency come 2013, the Mau issue and how it was played out. Could this MPs be fearing that this same issue, the Mau issue, could be used against the deputy president come 2022?
Two things, Fred. One, those MPs should be arrested today because of incitement. What they have done is not different from going to incite people against the government. The government has already effected an order to get them out of the forest, and MPs are walking there and saying, let them go back. So I think that needs to be done today, and I want to put the Inspector of Police on spotlight, that we want to see some action. We don't want to have a situation where the law is implemented halfway. Well, if it were MPs from my region, I think they would have been arrested immediately this morning. So we want to see more men arrested. Yesterday I said the arrests, people who are being arrested on corruption, they were complaining that they are being arrested at night. I said they should
on a Friday.
They should be arrested when they are making love. You know, the police should move in and arrest them. But the other issue that we must deal with as Kenyans right now is the ambitions of William Ruto. It has become like a perishable commodity, and I think when you talk about corruption, some people will say William Ruto's ambition is being interfered with. And I want to ask the president and maybe people in the executive to do two things. They need to sit somewhere and collect all the resources they need for William Ruto to become president so that Kenya can move forward. The other issue they need to do is that they need to, on this issue of Mau, William Ruto knows very well that the government, where he's the deputy president, is the one that is implementing this order. He also knows very well that we need to conserve Mau forest. I saw him, I don't know where, planting trees. Why was he planting trees in the other remote parts of the country when his community members and his MPs, he's sending his MPs to go and block a government action, which is actually meant to save this country? So I think we don't need this dishonesty. The president, at this point, we want to put the president on spotlight. Is he Amkora? Because he's being accused of being Amkora. He went into a handshake with His Excellency Raila Odinga, and now we are being told this, he was Amkora, he went into this thing. We want to know whether URP or William Ruto is above the law.
And of course, the kind of discussions around this issue are getting more and more muddied, because now we're even losing the plot in terms of, are we conserving the forest? Are we discussing politics? Or what exactly is happening? Let's get an input from the Senator of Narok, Senator Ledama Olikina. Very good morning, Senator. You've listened to what your colleague in the Senate, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, the leader of majority, has said, alongside all those other MPs. And what would you say to that?
Frank, a very good morning. I actually think Murkomen has completely lost it. I mean, it's completely pathetic for him to claim that Rift Valley MPs are going there. I saw in his tweet handle that he led a group of Rift Valley members. He should not say he has led a group of elites who make their living by manipulating the poor people. The issue of Mau Forest is something which is of a national interest. We go back to the Moi era, when people who are moved into the Mau Forest, they encroach into that forest, and the people downstream are suffering, and also the entire country. This issue of removing people from the Mau Forest, Frank, is something which we cannot stop. We cannot relent. So Murkomen will say all he wants. He goes down there, he talks to those people, and the sad part is that he really does not even tell them the importance of conservation. These people, the Kalenjin community is being taken advantage of by its leadership, and it's something which is completely unethical. And in this issue of Mau Forest, I can tell you this. I think Kipchumba is looking at it as if it's a lifeline for his politics, which is really divisive in its nature, but it will not change. If you traverse the entire Mau Forest complex, you will be shocked by the level of destruction. When we are now coming in, and this is why, Frank, I was actually very upset about the Division of Revenue Bill, because the way it was created in terms of the conditional grants to conserve our water catchment areas, Mau Forest was intentionally left out. You know, it went into Cherangani Hills, Mount Kenya, and I think the reason why they did that is because they don't want people to encroach on their forest. They want to bring these people to Narok.
Yes, Senator.
What my views are very clear. These people ought to go back to where they came from.
Okay.
And one thing that I can say is that it must be done in a humane way.
Yes.
That one I agree. But the problem is this: when the government issues a directive, it is completely hypocritical, unethical, and unleadership for the leader of the majority in the Senate to go and lie to the people of the Kalenjin community. These people came from somewhere. They have to go back to where they came from.
Senator, and you're talking to Fred in Indimuli. I've been hearing you refer to Frank.
But, Fred, I'm sorry. I'm just really emotional about this matter because
I do understand it is very emotive.
This guy is lying to the people, which is very sad.
Yes. But Senator, the other time, the last time that this issue of evictions got involved, politics got involved, it ended up scuttling the whole entire process of evictions, and it stopped eventually. And we do understand in a matter of years the encroachment even grew worse. This time round, you can actually see slowly, and from yesterday's action, politics has been reintroduced, and it's about 2022. Do you see this kind of politics affecting the process, which, to my understanding, was actually on its latter stages already?
I see. I actually agree with you entirely, and I think Murkomen and his group have realized that Kenyans can no longer be lied to. So what they want to do is that they want to go back to the community, which they actually take advantage of, to go and lie to them that we are being fought. What is Murkomen doing, leaving Marakwet? He should be helping the people of Marakwet instead of coming to Narok. So all these issues of politics of 2022, it's something which is completely ill-advised. I think the president was very clear. Let us focus on development, the fight on corruption. Let us focus on the fight on corruption. But now trying to take advantage of poor people, who they actually get them out from somewhere and bring them to Narok, is trying to introduce the 207 clashes.
Thank you so much.
My biggest concern, Fred, is that when these people are suffering, when these people come and encroach into that forest, they cut the trees, they move in. During the election period, nobody says anything because they say we will lose votes. But I think we've got to teach our Kenyans to learn how to speak the truth. The truth is the Mau forest is now being used to try and actually divert people's attention from the fight on corruption, from the development, to now an agenda which is, you know what, people are trying to affect William Ruto's bid for presidency. If William Ruto wants to become president, he goes to the Kenyans and talk to them. But I think these guys are actually destroying his chances of Kenyans ever listening to him. We cannot retreat back to our tribal cocoons at our own advantage. We have to think about the future of this nation. And the truth is, the rivers are drying completely.
Thank you, Senator.
The truth is, when the floods are destroying the entire environment, you don't hear these leaders saying, let us plant trees. But when it is advantageous to them, that's when you hear them. So this nonsense of William Murkomen running around is actually completely ill-advised. And we will not allow it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ledama Olikina of Narok. Thank you so much for your input on this into this debate. We've been speaking to Senator Ledama Olikina from Mombasa on phone. He's a senator for Narok with regard to the comments made by those MPs who went to monitor the ongoing eviction of encroachers from the Mau forest. Back to my panelists, this issue of 2022 now is being mentioned in everything that arises. Just last week when Kenya Power bosses, this week actually, were arrested and arraigned. The same MPs, and I saw one of them there, came out and said even these arrests have to do with 2022. Now we're seeing the Mau eviction has to do with 2022. Will we be discussing 2022 with regard to anything that the country is trying to grapple with? Are we focused too much on 2022 that we cannot see anything else?
I think it's unfortunate that the paranoia for 2022 has really taken up the stage. In fact, I've said here before that I wish we could just give ourselves 2 years or 2.5 to actually work for Kenyans before we start talking politics. But it's quite unfortunate that we see it every day. Everything you touch, the handshake, it is supposed to scuttle the 2022. The fight on corruption, it is targeting us. It is targeting a community. It is targeting the DP. It is targeting 2022 ambition. Everything we have tried to do, even as the president has really stood his ground to fight corruption. You've seen the arrest of Kenya Power. We saw the reaction of the CS, which for me was quite unfortunate. I really wish he'd never said that, because you know when you say that we'll be like Zambia, we'll lose who lost a team in a crash, you know. And I'm like, who are you talking for? If you feel someone is actually innocent, you can hire them a lawyer. Let them defend themselves until the end. But you cannot say as a community, we are being targeted. And if you profile, which is unfortunate, the people who have been arrested, the Kalenjins are not even the majority. Kikuyus are, if in terms of numbers. Then we should be saying you are targeting us, which is not right. And I think it is a diversionary tactic. And this, what we have seen with the Mau alterations, is exactly what has happened. Maybe people have used the DP or have used his name to actually perpetrate corruption, even maybe without him knowing. So for him and for his lieutenants, it is in their interest that they really let the DPP do his work. Let the CID do their work. Let EACC do their work. If someone is innocent, they will be vindicated. They will actually be cleared by the relevant authorities. But we cannot make it a 2022 affair. Yes. And even if we don't perform for these 4 years, the person to lose is the deputy president himself, because the person who was to benefit more if we work as Jubilee government and perform to Kenyans is him, because he is in this government. He will come and say, you know, when I was the deputy president, I've done this much, you've seen what we've achieved, so now can you now listen to me and see what else can I offer to better what we've done. If this does not work, the big four is not achieved, the loser will be the deputy president. So I really hope that they can tone the 2022. And I wished that when the deputy president spoke and said, you guys stop it, let us first work. I wish it can be that. Then for 2-3 years, let us work for Kenyans. Then when we come to 2022, he said it himself that he will go to Kenyans, because you never win elections by force, that I force you to vote for me. It never works. Yes. You have to go to the people. Even for us, we have to go to the people and convince them why you're a better person. And the people who are making it difficult is these utterances we are saying. Yes. We must really tone it down. And the mention of even Raila Odinga, because Raila Odinga has been very quiet over the past few weeks, and he's not even making headlines. Yes, in fact, we are not even, the last we heard of him was he had gone to South Africa for the centenary celebrations for the late Nelson Mandela. But reintroducing the name of Raila Odinga right now, even in terms of political strategy, Bwana Kipruto or Kirwa, does it make sense to you?
You know, people, when they use something and it works, they always think that it will work again. You see what happened in the run-up to 2013 election. They blamed the loss of a number of boys on Raila, that there were some 4,000 boys who were not being returned by government. And even after the Nosumukakita government was formed, they still continued blaming it on Raila. And it was a way of trying to derive a wedge between Raila and the Kalenjin community. Subsequent to that, they blamed him on the issue of Mau, implementation of Mau, and it worked for them, because all Kalenjins, except a few, went away from Raila. So this time they want to reintroduce that, but this time it's not going to work, because Raila is not part of government. Raila is working on supporting the agenda of the president to fight corruption and to create a platform for all Kenyans who may want to run for elections in future to have a platform that they can win and be declared the winners. The second thing that is very important, because when we analyze these issues, we look back. After the ICC, I would have expected President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, of necessity, to allow the two communities to mesh. Because it has been clear, and I've said before, that the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu, they are totally still polarized. The two leaders have been together, hugging each other, but on the ground, there's still mutual suspicion among the people of the two major communities supporting Jubilee. And that is something that somebody must have left it deliberately, so that they can use it as a weapon to tell Kikuyus in Rift Valley, if you don't vote for us, we are not going to stay with you. This is something that we should be able to preempt. In 2007, September 18th, I remember I mentioned to the people who were in government at that time that we had lost the Kalenjin community, but there was danger in 2007. There was danger that the boys were going to be misused after elections. People ignored, they thought I was worried because I was likely to lose elections, which I lost, but I was looking ahead. This time round, we must also preempt. This issue is they are fomenting hatred between the two communities. Finally, this issue of Mau is not about even the settlers alone. When these settlers go, there are people who hide under the name of settlers and they devastate the forest. If you overfly Mau forest today, you will realize that the forest is almost 1/3 of its own original size. And you see, instead of planting trees all over, allow Mau to regenerate. Because a forest like that, if you allow like 5 years, 10 years, it will go back to what it was. And it will create the ecology that is necessary to trap water, hold it, so that the people downstream will be benefiting in perpetuity. Yeah.
The kind of politics being played out right now, do you see the sense, do you see the political strategy behind it? It's 4 years before 2022. Don't you think even these MPs, the kind of gusto they're coming out with, fighting everything that the government seems to be working on and saying this has to do with 2022, don't you think that they run the risk of even losing steam a little too soon?
Indeed. And the president himself had said that he's the one who will conduct William Ruto's campaign in 2022. I don't know why anyone would want to doubt that. And at the end of the day, the president has to get sufficient support from all political players in the country to ensure that he's able to perform and get to put the country together. And we keep saying that we have never had a better opportunity to fix this country than we do have now. And every other Kenyan has a lot of goodwill for the president to do this. And you see now what these gentlemen are doing. I have not seen ladies today in that yeah. So I think what they're doing is that they're actually alienating the deputy president, and I hope the deputy president can see this, because this is not healthy. You can imagine people of Narok voted for the same Jubilee government. Now you come from Elgeyo Marakwet, you are coming from also other areas which are actually near Mau Forest. And you know, some of those people are even coming from very far off, and you say that these people voted for Jubilee government, and for that reason then we are not going to punish them by removing them from the forest where they have been living. Now that in itself, kind of, you're already dividing people who are already in the same basket. Why can't we just remove the politics of 2022 and we do work? And actually I would rather the government actually I mean, I would like the government, immediately they are through with this Mau Forest business, they need to also to go to Mount Kenya. They need to go to other forests in this country. There has been a lot of logging which has been going on in Mount Kenya. Although I know it was brought to a halt the other day when logging was stopped. But I'm very afraid, I'm very, very afraid that it might resume immediately after this logging embargo has been removed. So I hope that the politicians can see that by continuing this debate about 2022, they're just starting a fight where there is no fight. They are creating a storm in a teacup. And they need to know that you actually don't start a fight if you sell eggs in a market. Yeah, you actually like to have your eggs actually used to fight.
Honorable Atandi appears that, and according to all the panelists, they agree that if these politicians, and I'm talking about the ones who were in the Mau yesterday, if they're left to their own devices, they themselves could scuttle what they are hoping to work on come 2022.
I think yesterday's statements by these Rift Valley MPs, Kalenjin MPs in quotes, pronounced the end of William Ruto's ambition to lead this country, because even to try to reintroduce the name of Raila Amolo Odinga in this debate again tells you that these guys have run out of ideas. They don't know what to do. They're just knocking their heads on each other. But what I wanted to say is that if William Ruto and these MPs are complaining that he's being targeted in government on the purge, on the war against corruption, again, that to me portrays William Ruto as an ethnic warlord, as an ethnic leader, that despite the fact that he's the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, he has only been focusing and appointing his kinsmen, tribesmen in positions, such that if they are tagged for corruption, then everything ruptures. So in my view, I think Kenyans now can have an opportunity to see and to know who William Ruto is, and that we have a man who should never be allowed to step close to State House after 2022.
Wow. Well, quite a number of issues emerging from the headlines, quite a number of headlines that we may have had an opportunity to look at, but because of time, we have to wrap up our news review this morning. But of course, I have to give my panelists an opportunity to give your final words. The weekend is coming. The headlines are varied, because yes, dailies and even Citizen TV normally agree on what the big story is. Today we're talking about the Mau issue, the Ruaraka land scandal, the fact that we're talking about the death sentence for this prison beauty queen as well, Homa Bay governor losing his seat, teachers winning big with the new job structure. You can choose any to comment on and probably predict the headlines going into the weekend. Let's start with the only lady at the table.
Thank you. I think